Good morning. Hello and welcome to today's webinar discussion on effective marketing techniques to grow your accounting firm. My name is Ryan Himmel and I'm the founder and CEO of Tax Research Pro and the host of this event. For those that don't know, Tax Research Pro is a service owned and operated by BitaWiz Inc. It's a tax research support service and marketing platform for solo practitioners and small to mid-sized accounting firms across the U.S. Tax Research Pro has been featured in a number of publications including CPA Practice Advisor, Accounting Today, and the Wall Street Journal. So let's get started with an overview of today's agenda. On a high level, we'll discuss the importance of establishing a distinct firm brand, optimizing your marketing properties, i.e. your website, professional networks, and office space, implementing lead generation programs to ensure these properties are being leveraged, then reviewing your marketing strategy on a periodic basis, and then I'll introduce Tax Research Pro's marketing solutions. Finally, we'll entertain any questions that you may have on this topic. Please note that you can simply type in your questions in the question tab of the webinar dashboard on the right side of your screen. So without further ado, let's get started with guidance on establishing a distinct brand. This can be one of the harder topics to address for CPA firms as it may not always be so clear how to define their brand. CPAs, after all, are not marketing experts. That being said, we can still evaluate the existing brand and establish a new one by gaining an understanding of the core competencies and specific attributes of the firm. It may be that the services they offer, perhaps it's very broad, covering many different areas, or it's more narrow in focus. Perhaps the firm specializes in tax solely for individuals. It may also be helpful to understand the capability of the firm. Are they very technology-driven or a full-service one-stop shop? What about their location? Are they small or large, covering a specific region? Lastly, perhaps the experience of the partners is meaningful. The point here is that you want to define your firm's identity and have the information incorporated in all aspects of your brand. But we're not done yet. Defining who you are as a firm is one step of the process. In addition to incorporating who you are as a brand, we also need to include the firm's value proposition, or i.e. their secret sauce. It may go hand in hand with defining the firm, or it may be something very specific. Perhaps your firm is the only firm and the most affordable firm in the area that specializes in estate tax with a mix of CPAs, enrolled agents, tax attorneys, and some financial professionals. That's certainly a way that you can separate yourself from the competition. Once we've defined who we are and incorporated the value proposition, next we need to make sure our brand is disseminating the right message across marketing platforms. For instance, your website, your physical office space, and various promotional materials. It is important to note that branding is about frequency, and it's most effective when you have a consistent message across properties. Speaking of which, your online marketing properties such as your website in the next slide, must be optimized to reflect your brand in its content, design, and capability. As most of us know by now, many accounting firms have a website. A lot of firms are motivated to have a site because other firms in the area have one and most clients expect it. However, saying you have a website is not enough. You should be able to assess whether or not it is actually helping your firm generate new business. Unfortunately, most firms are not exactly sure how much business, if any, is generated by having a site. That's unacceptable, though, as we're in the digital age where everything online can be tracked. So what are your options if you have an existing site or need to upgrade or haven't even launched a site yet? There are a number of do-it-yourself website building companies specifically tailored to accountants. The companies include CPA Site Solutions, eMocello, which was acquired by Thomson Reuters, GetNetSet, CCH Website Builder, and many others. Most of these solutions provide accounting firms with a turnkey website hosting solution for them to essentially check the box that they have a website. This can be managed internally or by hiring some other party externally and having them manage the administrative aspect of the site. However, one of the major drawbacks of these solutions is that accounting firms are not separating themselves from the competition, as other firms will have similar sites with similar templates and similar content. Just to give you an idea, if I jump to the next slide here, we actually Googled a keyword with content on an article that was published by one of the do-it-yourself accounting site builders in their newsletter section, and we typed in the words named after Section 1031, and about 22,300 results on Google showed up. And you'll notice on the right side here that a lot of these results are actually the same exact content coming from one of these do-it-yourself accounting site building companies. And so you can't really distinguish yourself from the crowd when you have the exact same content on your site as other CPA firms. And I know you're probably thinking perhaps new and existing clients are not going to be Googling, they're not going to realize that we have duplicate contact. That may be the case in some degree, but it's not just the clients that you need to be worried about. You need to be worried about what the search engines are thinking, because if you have duplicate content on your site with other competing sites, you're penalized on Google, and that will definitely be harmful to your site on the rankings, on organic search, which is very meaningful for SEO purposes, which I'll get into later, and it really just dilutes your brand. So it's not something that we recommend at all. And then from a cost perspective, it's fairly inexpensive at $30 to $200, depending on if you go for a simple plan or one with all the bells and whistles. But that being said, if you can't make a lot from it and have a high return on investment, it's really a waste of money. The other option is to work with a local website developer and designer. This could be a compelling option since you'll have a completely custom designed site. However, it's not the best option if you don't want to spend a lot of time creating content yourself and instructing the web designer or developer on how the look and feel should be consistent with your brand. A lot of these designers, they're well versed in design and development, but not so much in the accounting vertical. And you want to make sure that you're working with a firm that has a keen understanding as to your brand, technology, website development, and accounting. So this is something that you might want to consider, but it's going to be there's certainly a cost involved, several $1,000s to start up for working with these independent website development companies. And it's also going to require a lot of your time in terms of creating content and just directing them, since they don't have an accounting background. The other option to consider is to work with a firm that is focused on developing an integrated marketing strategy specifically tailored to accountants that includes website development and design. In this regard, the entire site can be designed, developed, and optimized to your specific brand without having you to dedicate too much time of your own into creating the site and creating the content. And furthermore, it will help you really assess whether or not your site is generating new business, because a lot of these firms, including ourselves, we have an understanding of how to measure performance and how users interact with your site. In addition to your website, it's also important that, if we go to the next slide, that you have an understanding of the importance of other online properties such as review sites and professional social networks. If you aren't already aware, the first thing a new client, a prospect, or an existing client will do when they're trying to get your contact information is they're going to Google you. And when they Google you, various review sites will come up with your name, whether or not you chose to voluntarily or involuntarily. And Yelp is a great example of one. And you'll want to make sure that your brand and your contact information, and of course the reviews, reflect the message that you want to send to prospective clients. And there's other sites as well. Google Plus is a nice way for you to build a branded company page, and it's good for SEO. And then there's more lead generation type sites like Angie's List, which capture reviews, and that's generally published in the Angie's List database. But the point here is that you want to make sure that you're active with these review sites. It's updated contact information. It reflects your brand, and you really want to take advantage of it. A lot of firms just kind of don't really pay too much attention to it, and I think I know they're losing a lot of potential business and potentially hurting some of the relationships they have with their existing clientele. And then it's important to really think about how your firm and how you professionally fit into some of the social networks and the professional networks. LinkedIn is a great tool. You want to make sure, though, that your profile is up to date, and you should be active with your connections, as you can really get a lot of referrals, and you can spread your wings, if you will, by sharing some valuable content that you might create through your blog or your newsletter and publish it on LinkedIn. If your connections like it, their connections will see it, and that will help you establish a more broader brand, and you can actually even get referrals through LinkedIn. It may be that somebody you know on LinkedIn that you're connected with knows someone who you need to get introduced to. Let's say you're tackling dental offices, and somebody that you know is a dental office supplier. It's possible for you to get an introduction going that route. It's also important to use Twitter and Facebook. Twitter is more of a content marketing tool. Any articles you publish, you can share it with the Twitter community, and a lot of times that information will get circulated throughout the Twitter universe. It's great for branding. You can even use it from a customer service perspective as you're addressing some inquiries from new clients as well as existing ones on a non-personal basis. And then Facebook is fantastic for event announcements. Perhaps you're hosting a client breakfast, you're receiving an award, or attending a notable conference. This is information that you want to be publishing on Facebook to show that you're up to date. As I said earlier, when clients Google your name, they're going to see that information pop up on Google, and it shows that you're active in the community, you're staying up to date in the industry, and you can even get reviews on Facebook, which can go a long way in closing some new business. Let's not also forget about optimizing your offline marketing properties. Your office space is a great place to brand your firm in terms of its location, look, and how work is done. Clients, new and old, often visit firm offices, and it sends a very strong message, good or bad, on how your office looks. The other point is that you want to make sure that the office is located, if you have an existing one or considering expanding, in your target demographic. It's not always that you should work in the same town that you live in. It may be that the town two towns over is more has more professional service companies such as attorneys, financial services, IT providers that can help you refer business. Can refer business to you as well as our prospective clients. So you really want to think about where you're located and if it's a convenient place for your clientele. And also you want to keep in mind that the partners and employees of your firms should be essentially walking advertisements. They should reflect the same brand that you're trying to articulate to clients. There's way too many firms with partners that are focused solely on field work, and we believe and we should encourage a lot of managing partners to empower their existing existing partners as well as some of their associates to really pitch the firm and to articulate the firm's value proposition to prospective clients. And they can do this in a number of ways. A lot of it's just time commitment and attending specific networking events. Perhaps you have a target in a 3-month period that you want to gain new business from 2 different auto dealerships. There are definitely networking events where auto dealers attend, and you can certainly try to build relationships and have key associates or partners attend those events. Now let's shift the conversation away from branding and the marketing properties to lead generation in more of a direct sales sense. One way you may be able to do this is through search engine marketing, and specifically through Google AdWords. This can be very effective, but only under certain circumstances. First, the person who is managing the program must have a significant amount of expertise and experience with AdWords and with the accounting vertical. Second, the market must be unsaturated. The return on investment for broad-based firms in highly populated areas is very low on AdWords. Either niche-focused firms or those in rural areas generally perform very well on Google AdWords as compared to broad-based firms in more urban areas. The other option is display advertisements and potentially directory listings, but they usually are not too effective. Specifically, directory listings are highly saturated with other accountants, and you can't really customize your brand on these sites. Yes, you only pay a few $100s a year, but you don't get much in return. That's generally speaking. In terms of display advertisements, there are different websites that you can advertise your firm. If you're focusing on, say, a specific sector, perhaps you are a CPA firm that targets construction and developers, and you want to get featured in a industry publication, you can do so. But the problem is you're probably not too keen on the traction of that publication, and you can't really track the success of some of the advertisements that you commit to, and therefore it's kind of a blind buy, and you don't really know whether or not it's successful. You really want to work with an outside party that has a strong understanding of the success and the tracking of these different advertising programs. And the other option to consider is newsletter sponsorships, which can be very effective. They are also somewhat pricey, but they have a high return on investment if the messaging is correct and you're targeting the correct audience. So we've just gone through paid advertisements, and over the long term it can be very difficult to have a high return on investment. It's very dependent on specific conditions that I laid out previously. But now I'd like to change gears and look at what we would call free advertising. That's search engine optimization, which helps a firm move up on the organic search results on Google, Bing, and others. This is unpaid advertisements. Of course, we say it's free, but it's really not free because it takes a lot of time and resources to be listed on the top few spots on the first page of Google. Specifically, it also requires a lot of SEO experience and, for our purposes, experience with the accounting jargon and the vertical. And it's highly dependent on whether or not you're optimizing your online properties correctly. There are a lot of SEO firms out there, but few are actually very good and understand the accounting vertical. There's a high upfront cost generally, and there's a maintenance fee to maintain your position once you do get to the first page and on the top few spots of Google. But if it's done effectively and you elect to choose the right firm, it could be a gold mine for new business. We have a strong expertise in this area, and we've had a lot of success generating new business on our own. And I'm happy to talk about that further offline with any existing or prospective clients. And the other point to note is that it generally takes about 90 to 100 days to rank on the first page. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight, such as search engine marketing, but it has a high return on investment over the long term. Another area to address is newsletter and email marketing. This can be very helpful in sharing valuable insight with your existing clients and obtaining new referrals and connecting with new clients. That being said, it's not so easy to do. There are certain criteria to meet when you're formulating these emails and you're putting together a plan of attack. First, each campaign should have a specific goal and defined message. Second, you may need to incorporate seasonality so the content is relevant, or separate specific lists by client type or industry so it resonates with the audience once they receive it in their inbox. The actual content from the subject to the body of the email are also very important as well. If the subject of the newsletter or email does not strike a chord of emotion, it doesn't have to be so eye-popping, but it certainly needs to get the reader's attention, then the open rate won't be that high. So you want to make sure it's something that will be very relevant and will get someone's attention. You'll also need a way to capture the lead by directing them to a specific contact form to fill out on the site. This is a way for you to measure the success of the email marketing campaign. And I would recommend to try staying away from the do-it-yourself accounting building newsletter sites that I referenced earlier, as the content is generally very generic. The newsletter and email marketing that we discussed in the prior slide can leverage the blogging and the content marketing that is done on the firm website. Content marketing is becoming more and more important for all businesses, and especially in the professional services sector. I recommend that your firm works with a copywriter with accounting experience that can construct an editorial calendar and publish at least 2 to 3 blog articles on a weekly basis. We do this ourselves internally, and we've done this for other firms. It's definitely very important for firms to be allocating resources towards content marketing. It can go a long way in helping you rank on the search engines for long-tail keywords, and although it may be time-consuming, it's not particularly expensive, and the return on investment is very high. A more expensive distribution channel, but with great long-term value, is public relations. One of the reasons why it's so effective is because other firms are simply not investing time or resources into it. There are a number of PR firms, there are a number of different forms of PR, which may be guest contributions on a major site such as Entrepreneur Magazine. We do some of that ourselves. And you can also build relationships with local and national financial editors if you can establish a rapport through Twitter or through a direct email, something that is a little bit eye-catching to them and relevant to them. I would certainly not recommend spamming them, but if you can get an introduction or send them an email that you think will be very relevant to them, then it's likely that you may be referenced in the future and they'll quote you in various financial publications. The other option is to hire a PR firm, a general PR firm, which can be very expensive and not so rewarding. Working with an accounting marketing firm with experience is usually the most ideal situation. Some smaller solo practitioners and small accounting firms don't have resources to do this, but this is going to be the most ideal solution in almost all scenarios. In addition to online lead generation channels available in the market, there are also a number of ways you can leverage your offline relationships built at conferences and networking events, such as joining a BNI group. Please note that the cost for a BNI group varies by chapter, but you can expect to pay anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per year. Having said that, the monetary cost is not the real cost, as 1 or 2 referrals could offset that cost. Rather, your time is the biggest cost factor you should consider when evaluating whether you're joining a group makes sense. You will be putting at least 2 hours into it each week, or about 100 hours annually. This may mean that the cost is really in the $10,000 to $20,000 range, if not more, when factoring in your hourly rate. Having said that, we do know of accountants that have participated in these groups and generated upwards of $100,000 through referrals. So what should you do if you want to join one of these groups? How should you approach it? First, you want to make sure you're joining the right chapter. It pays to be selective in evaluating different chapters before committing yourself to them. There may be some that are a better fit to you than others. For instance, you should also search for a chapter in which you personally connect with other members. The stronger the relationships that you can cultivate with other members and vice versa, the more likely you'll be able to help each other out. The other point to note is that you can always try attending a meeting to get a sense of the members and whether the format is suitable for you. Now that we've gone through the steps in developing a distinct firm brand, optimizing your marketing properties, and leveraging lead generation channels, it's important to note that they should all coexist together. If they aren't working well together, you're leaving money on the table and likely wasting a significant amount of time. Furthermore, you must continually review your marketing strategy to ensure that all of the elements reflect where your firm is today. It's possible for your brand to change as your firm evolves and grows. You also need to continually track the success of each program, but make sure you give it time. You don't want to just give up on a program if it doesn't work after 2 weeks. You need to make sure you give it the right amount of time before you cross it off your list. Before we move into the Q&A, I just wanted to point out that our firm, Tax Research Pro, provides full-service marketing solutions for accounting firms, and we can address many of the objectives we've discussed today. I'm happy to speak with any of you offline further by you contacting me at my contact information on the slide. So let's go into Q&A. Here, our firm uses a do-it-yourself accounting site builder. We're not so sure what the impact is for our business, but we don't do much with it. We don't get many leads online either. That being said, we've invested quite a bit of money in the monthly fee, and I don't want to get rid of the asset entirely. Do you have any recommendations? Okay, so yes, sure. So first, we can certainly leverage the existing website by reviewing the Google Analytics data that tracks how users are interacting with the site. This will tell us a lot in terms of what is working and what is not working. The other point to note is that the site likely has a lot of content and other design aspects which can be incorporated to a fresh new site. So I don't think it's complete loss if you switch from using one of these do-it-yourself accounting site builders to, say, an accounting marketing firm that specializes in developing a site that's integrated with all other aspects of your marketing properties. In fact, I believe that it's you have a leg up from other sites that are not looking to improve, or firms that don't even have a website or just have a Facebook page. If you have an existing site, there's a lot of data that can be leveraged, and you can really the firm that you're working with can assess what is working, what is not, in developing a new site that reflects your most up-to-date brand. Here's another question. I always hear about blogging, but I don't have the time to do it or to incorporate it in a newsletter. What's your recommendation? So content marketing is certainly very important in terms of blogging and newsletters that are drafted by your firm. I understand that it's very time-consuming and it's resource-oriented. That being said, it's very worthwhile for your firm to be involved in it if you're not already, and that is because more and more of new business is going to be generated online, and if you don't have an online presence, you have no business. And you're going to be able to really build your brand the fastest by sharing concepts and insights online and with your community and the community that extends beyond your network. So I would really think about different ways that you can make it work. We have a bunch of different solutions from really small firms to large firms, but there should be a solution that will work for everyone. And I'm happy to discuss it offline. So that actually concludes all the questions, and this wraps up today's session. We want to thank you for attending today's webinar, and feel free to reach out to me at the contact information detailed on the screen if you're interested in our marketing solutions or tax research programs. We look forward to sharing more helpful webinars coming in October. Thank you again.